Signs. These are actual signs that a road company makes if you wanted one for your garage wall or something. They also have 9" by 9". And with that, let's get started. All right, the story of Grand River Avenue. We call it that old Grand River. And every time I say that, I think of the Tennessee Ernie Ford singing that song. So I'm just going to give you a little travelogue here. And it starts with the city of Portland, owes its beginnings and its heritage to the road that we all know and love called Grand River Avenue. We want to keep the memory of its official designation as US16 alive in Portland. We'd like to give you a brief look at the development through the years. We owe a special thanks to the following for the pictures, information, and subscriber comments. Number one is the Portland Historical Society member Marilyn Johnson and her Portland, Michigan history page. She does a lot of in-depth research, and we'll cover that in just a minute. But the Portland Historical Society has a photo archives that I'm using. The Beacon Online News Source had a nice article for us about the Divine Hotel, Wikipedia, and some of these other websites. So there's a lot of information available for these. Michigan highways.org. Yep, said that. Okay, the Facebook page Portland, Michigan History currently has nearly 10,000 likes and 12,000 followers. So it's pretty obvious that there are a lot of people around the country that really enjoy the look at a small town that is provided on that website. If you're not familiar with it, please look it up, because every day there's 2 or 3 pictures, historical pictures, and some of them I've never seen before. So it's really a good source for information. Also, we recommend this book for a more in-depth study of Grand River Avenue in US16. It's published by Arcadia Publishing, the same company that did our Portland book. It's less than $20. I don't know when, but they go county by county with a lot of really great photos in the book.
And so, Mike?
Yeah.
When she was researching that book, she came and used our library and got pictures.
Okay, yep, and I have a couple of them in here as well. So, in Michigan, there are 3 significant entities going by the name of Grand River. There's a river, an ancient trail, and a US Highway 16. The pathway along Grand River Avenue corridor was originally an Indian trail, and I hope you've enjoyed your walk through the woods, because that's what US 16 would have looked like in the first attempt. It was just a footpath used by the Native Americans, and it roughly followed the Grand River. The first European settlers used these trails, and in some areas enlarged them for the passage of wagons. It often involved the felling and clearing of trees through thick Michigan woods. The first settlers in Portland arrived on horseback and by ox carts, so they would have had to make their way in the same manner, known as the Grand River Trail. The original footpath was gradually widened, straightened, and improved until around 1850, with the passage of the Michigan Plank Road Act. 2 plank roads were constructed linking Detroit and Lansing. A plank road, get this bigger here, is a road composed of wooden planks or puncheon logs as an efficient technology for traversing soft, marshy, or otherwise difficult ground. A puncheon was usually a deck or a flooring made of sawn, treated lumber and placed on stringers to elevate the trail. The Detroit and Howell Plank Road, coupled with the Howell and Lansing Plank Road, allowed travelers to more easily make the trip between Detroit and Lansing, even by stagecoach. The Plank Road companies charged a toll to use the road, and toll gates were generally erected nearly every 5 miles. Sooner or later, you'll hear the term corduroy road. Get that bigger. Corduroy is basically a primitive type of a puncheon, and it consists of laying 3 or more native logs on the ground as stringers, with cross logs laid side by side across the stringers and bound together with wire or nails. Corduroy is also notorious for a rough ride and for consuming large amounts of material, and they were not very durable. They were the first ones to wear out around.
Were they the first, were the corduroy ones first, or were the plank ones first?
Plank.
Oh, okay.
The road from Detroit to ending up to Lansing was plank road, as I showed you here in this one.
Okay.
Oh, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what that was. So the progression is from Indian trails to plank roads, and then in 1918, when the Michigan State Trunk Line System is assigned numbers and the route markers are posted along the routes, including the route from Detroit to originally Grand Haven. This route was designated State Trunk Line M16. I've never found or seen any of these road signs, even at an antique shop or anything. Has anyone else ever found one? There must have been a lot of them, but I've never found one. So now we have the official beginnings of the major roadway from Detroit to originally Grand Haven, designated as M16. All the traffic between these two cities and in between would travel this road and through Portland. Hey, Marjorie. Marjorie was at a meeting in the city, so she's helping research this stuff. Come on in. Here's your name tag. Did you get the work done? You canceled. All right. All right. In 1926, all of N16 in Michigan was given the new US16 route designation from Grand Haven to Detroit. In 1938, reflectorized discs were placed on US16 every 100 feet from Detroit to Lansing, resulting in fewer nighttime traffic accidents. Then other states would later do the same thing on their roads. The traffic along US 16 provided an endless supply of opportunity for enterprising folks to open mom and pop stores along the highway, and was a boon to merchants in downtown Portland. Through the 1950s, all the storefronts were occupied and provided every service and product that anyone could want. The next few slides, we're going to use a vintage auto owner's insurance map. I don't know the date of it, but it will serve our purposes here. In Detroit area, the City Council in 1928 approved the request to erect route markers on the various streets in downtown Detroit, carrying the new US Highway 16 sign. From Detroit, the route continues traveling on what was then Grand River Avenue to East Lansing. So right up Grand River Avenue to what we know as into East Lansing there. From downtown East Lansing, the US 16 routed westerly into Lansing via Grand River Avenue, across the north side of Lansing, and then northwesterly, still via Grand River Avenue towards Eagle, and on to Wright Road, north of Grand Ledge, and then on to Portland. The routing was unpopular with the Grand Ledge civic leaders, to the point that an article in Michigan Roads and Pavements magazine said, quote, "The progressive businessmen of Grand Ledge proposed to meet this divergence of traffic by placing large signs in East Lansing, urging tourists to take M39, which later was M43, directly through the heart of Lansing to Grand Ledge and on to Grand Rapids." He didn't know whether that was effective or not, so I don't know. They didn't like that. In 1930, US 16 continued westward through Portland and on to Grand Rapids. Get that bigger. And a new approach into Grand Rapids for US 16 was designated to run along a new alignment from the existing Cascade Road route and then due westerly to the East Grand Rapids city limit and then on to Grand Haven.
Oh, it didn't went to Muskegon.
Question?
I thought it went to Muskegon.
Well, hang on now.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
Get ahead of them.
If you have comments or whatever, please speak up, because this is great. We want memories of the things we're talking about. If you have a comment or something, everybody will learn something and we'd enjoy hearing from you. Okay, Margaret. we're going up here. In 1940, Michigan State Highway Commissioner Murray Van D. Wagner petitioned the American Association of State Highway Officials to approve rerouting US 16 from its Utica-Grand Haven alignment, that would be right in here, to approve rerouting it to take over the route of M126, or the airline highway. So from Utica through Fruitport to Muskegon, that is how it ended up as a change. US 16 and M46 traveled concurrently south and then east through downtown Muskegon, and then US 16 terminated its run through Michigan at the Grand Trunk Western Railroad docks in Muskegon. The SS Milwaukee Clipper operated out of Milwaukee as a car ferry across Lake Michigan. It was designated as an extension of US 16 during the summer months, connecting Muskegon to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where US 16 continued on to the west.
Yeah, so how many of you taken a car ferry across? From either, like now you can do it from, and now you can do the car ferry from Muskegon. Otherwise you had to go to Ludington. But, think about this as Clipper.
We have it's the lake, it's the Badger in Ludington, but it's the Lake Express in Muskegon.
Yeah.
Right, the new one.
It goes really fast.
Right, because otherwise we had the Midland and we had the Badger.
I've toured the Milwaukee Clipper.
Yeah, so the Milwaukee Clipper was launched on December 22nd, 1904 in Cleveland, Ohio at the shipyards of the American Shipbuilding Company. Today, the Milwaukee Clipper is known as the Queen of the Great Lakes, and it serves as a museum ship in Milwaukee. And Margaret, you say you visited that one?
No, it's not in Milwaukee, it's in Muskegon.
It's in Muskegon.
Oh, who typed this? All right, we'll change
It's
it.
him, but it was not.
Okay,
The
yeah.
name of it threw you.
It's quite a tourist attraction, I'm sure. Okay, moving along. After President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed the Interstate Highway Act into law in 1956, routes had to be chosen. The US 16 Detroit to Lansing, Grand Rapids, Muskegon corridor was an obvious one, designated as I-96. That's in 1958. I-96 took several years to complete and was initially still designated also as US 16. Here this article reads, quote, "The new route to carry US 16 over the Grand River near Market Street in Portland. The citizens of Portland and merchants quickly realized the effect that this would have on traffic through the city. The Portland Chamber of Commerce made several attempts to maintain the vital flow of traffic on US 16 into Portland. By the end of 1962, much of the US 16 corridor had been upgraded to a freeway, so as not to have two overlapping route designations on the entire Detroit to Muskegon highway. The State Highway Department petitioned the American Association of Highway Officials to have the US 16 route designation decommissioned in the state of Michigan, leaving only the I-96 routing to run between Detroit and Muskegon. As of December 12, 1962, the route of US 16 ceased to exist east of Milwaukee. And here we have the effect of opening I-96 was immediate. Travelers and commuters no longer had to travel through Portland to stop and shop or get gas or rent rooms for the night. The businesses gradually declined, some stores closed, and life slowed down in Portland. Okay, so now we know the story of US 16 in Michigan. I thought we'd just have a little bit of fun with some of the memories along the route. And I would appreciate it if you had some memories, if you'd speak up, and we'll talk about them as well. We'll go from east to west, along Lansing and through Portland, and then onward. Who has gotten gas or eaten a hearty meal at Ruth's Lunch and Service Station? This was just east of M100. Remember that one?
I
Is that the one that burned down?
I think it burned down, but that's not.
Yeah, they had great food. If it's the one I'm thinking of, they had great food
Right,
there.
there were little place just in between there, and I can remember I grew up in Grand Ledge, I remember riding my bicycle to Wacusta, and that would be the stop-in because they let you use the bathroom. And so that was a, place, that was just that little place.
Yep.
Okay, moving along. Here's US 16 at Wright Road, M100 east of Eagle. In 1934, you notice the cross mile marker on the left. It indicates that Grand Ledge and Potterville are 3 and 12 miles respectively to the south. Portland and Grand Rapids are 10 and 50 miles respectively to the west. And Lansing and Detroit are 14 and 91 miles respectively to the east. On the far side of the intersection, Sinclair gas station sits next to a large barn and farmhouse.
That barn was there a long time.
In 2024, the farms are now gone, replaced by Karsh Auto and Speedway Gas, and by a McDonald's restaurant. The Eagle Hotel accommodated highway travelers along US 16 and those arriving at the local station by rail. It was located where Mark's Marine now stands, and the hotel burned around 1933. I don't know if anybody would have any memories of that one, so.
No, but it's really funny that there's a hitching post out in front of it.
Oh, yeah?
There's a hitching post in front of it. Yeah, for horses.
Okay. All right, here's a good one. Who remembers these lanes? We used to call them suicide lanes. It was in an era when states had thousands of miles of 3-lane highways with a center lane that could be used by vehicles traveling in both directions. There were no barriers, no median, and allowed for the possibility of a head-on collision. Anybody remember those?
Yes.
I do remember some of those different places around the city.
Does anybody remember where that ended outside of the city limits of Portland? No?
The 3-lane?
Yeah, where they ended.
Yeah.
Because within the city of Portland, it wasn't 3-lane.
No, I imagine.
Because I grew up over on the east side of the state with the 3-lane between Fowlerville, Weberville, and Howell. We had the 3-lane.
Right.
I thought it was great.
You had to kind of sneak.
Now they got 3 lanes, you're going to make a left turn.
You had to kind of sneak out and peek and hope the guy coming at you wasn't doing the same thing. I kind of remember those.
Well, it's just like any other passing lane.
Yeah, had to be smart. Okay, west of Jones Road and east of Frost Road lie what used to be called the Davenport Hills, presumably resembling the old overstuffed couches or Davenports. And this is where the mobile home park is. And there are several hills there where it's pretty much impossible to pass anybody. Who remembers a Portland resident named Grover Yeary? Anybody know Grover? Yeah, a few of you? Well, the story goes that around 1928, Grover was traveling through the Davenport Hills with his Model T, and he collided head-on with an oncoming car. And Grover was thrown through the roof, which at the time was made of cloth and wood. So there he is. He's got a kind of a head bandage there. And his car is pretty bad shape.
And he lived to tell the story.
Oh yeah, he had a lot of stories.
This was Michael's uncle. He got married to his aunt.
He was an amazing guy for sure. Frost Corner's Grocery and Barbecue Shop. I bet this was a busy place on US 16 back in the day. I'm not sure when this disappeared, but I don't have any memory of it.
I think the house is still there.
The
So
house
where is Frost Corners?
Where is it? Yeah, where's Frost Corners?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would have to look back in the description in the Facebook page to see if it gives any more.
There was a school there too, I think.
Right.
That was before, well, we've only been
The
here
house
for
is still
13
there,
years.
it used to be Strong Strain owned it.
Don't know.
Nobody's in it now, it's
Yeah.
empty. It's right on the corner of Peak, Frost, and Grand River.
Is that the one that's like,
It's green.
There's a brick part of it too?
No, it's
Is it
green.
Frost Corners?
They've remodeled it a couple times. It's still empty though.
Yeah.
Still empty, okay. Well, you could open up a barbecue shop there. Have a big hit. Does anybody remember the Keel Inn located on US 16 at the corner of Peak Road? Facebook contributor Lola Martin provided the lower photo and informed us that it was owned by Pat and Charles Cockriel, C-O-C-K-R-I-E-L. And I don't remember that one either. Okay, everybody knows Ice.
Oh, yeah.
Ice was a favorite hangout. Name brings back great memories. The car hops would bring the meal to your car and attach the tray to your window. And sometimes I heard one guy telling me they'd have a sheet hung up and show movies. You could get pretty much anything you wanted on that menu. It was just amazing. The proprietor was Ivan Wilcox, a veteran of World War II, and Ivan lived to be the age of 100 here. So we all wish we had Ike's back. I know
Especially
that.
french fries.
And had those
Especially the
cool
French
cars.
fries, that's right. New Era Silo on Old US 16 on the Schraben Farm, just east of Portland, is a nationally known roadside landmark. If you look at any of the travel books about traveling through this area, you'll almost always see a photo of it. It was painted to represent the original New Era potato chip can. Repainted many times, yeah, it looks great right now. I think Marv Schraben has done
Elated
some of the
that they keep
painting.
it up.
Yeah.
Who maintains the silo now?
I think Marv is the son. I think he's done some of the painting. You know any more about?
No, I don't.
Okay. All righty. Remember the Big D?
Oh, yeah.
Located on East Grand.
That's me sitting over there.
And truck stop was a popular spot.
I remember the Big D burger. That was
The Big D Burger, yeah. We
about
used
that
to,
big around.
I used to play in a band and we'd get done at 1 in the morning and we'd end up there about 2:30. They were open all night and, you know, it was a welcome sight for sure.
Good chili.
This photo provided by the Hilligan family. There's a familiar red tomato restaurant. What other businesses can you remember in these buildings? There have been many.
Well, before that, there was Tommy's. I mean,
Tommy's?
not in this location.
No.
No.
In this one, there used to be a feed market.
Yep.
Yeah, it
Um,
was that when I moved here.
there was, yeah, that was
That
on
was
the
the
other
red
side.
tomato when I moved here.
Wasn't there a gas station owned by Russ Sanborn? Didn't he have something like a bait shop too?
Yeah, very possibly. I know there was a tax place in there. There was a exercise place in there. So, yeah. Before he put the siding on, it didn't look quite like that. But
It's tacos now.
Is it?
No, it's
Oh,
torn
that's the
down.
parking lot.
I mean,
yeah, Margie
They tore
asked me if I
everything
had
down,
one of
yeah.
Tommy's restaurant, and I don't, but
Wasn't there a building before that?
when it was going to be
Yeah.
popular, if you ask people
Yeah.
about Portland, you ever been to Portland, they'd all say, oh yeah, Tommy's, because they
never
never
reached
went down the
there,
hill,
I've
they
never
just
been
stopped
to
there and ate.
Well, it's where Tommy's is where it was where the Oriental
Chinese
buffet
restaurant.
is now.
The Chinese restaurant,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, that was on the other
Well, the
side.
Chinese restaurant was in front of there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because this was kind of facing the side street.
Yeah, but Tommy's restaurant was right across from where the grocery store is. It was in that mall. Everybody would stop at Tommy's.
Yep.
Tom
Yeah,
was before
yeah.
Tom's.
What was before Tommy's? Wow.
When was that complex even built? An idea?
Yeah, I'm not sure I know. Does anybody know?
What's that?
When it was
When this
built.
complex was built here?
Well, the Tommy Strip Mall, I guess.
It's-
Oh.
Well, you had
I worked there for Bob Lear about
Bob
4 years.
Lear's,
Grocery
yeah,
store.
and then the little red shoe house was in the middle. If you remember that one. Yep, so yeah, a lot of activity right there in that area. And it was definitely a draw from people off the freeway. Okay, Marv Thrasher's Creamy, an ice cream parlor and restaurant. He had really a big menu and a very popular place. Any thoughts about the Creamy?
Where was it?
It was,
Right where Verizon's at.
yeah, it was like,
Right where Verizon is today. Yeah.
When I moved, shortly after I moved here, they burned it down, and I
Yep.
photographed it, them
Got
burning
pictures
it.
of that.
What
You
they
took
do?
pictures?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's unfortunate.
and it was, yeah, I
Yeah.
felt bad. Sometimes I feel bad photographing stuff, but,
Did you say they burned it down?
yeah, they burned down the
Yep.
Creamy.
Oh.
And then built, I thought that it was where they put the Goodwill store. Wasn't that?
Yeah,
Because
in that
before
area,
they
yeah.
built
The Goodwill
Robot's,
right in
right,
there?
for-
I think they
I
built,
think they did, because
Yeah.
that whole corner used to, if I remember right, it was kind of a different angle right there. I mean, it was
Yeah.
still that kind of angle like that, but even I can remember about the Creamy was kind of
it was
on,
right there someplace.
kind of like right to
On
the
an
front.
island.
It was kind of like almost an island, like right at the front, it seems like of most of the sidewalk or something, maybe not.
Was it like on the
Bridge
corner
Street.
by Bridge Street?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
yeah.
Yeah, but actually before the tornado came through.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That whole
Way,
thing
way-
was
way before that.
was
Way-
configured a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And then when the tornado came through, then everything
where was it to the VFW?
kind of crossed the street.
Like
went from
across.
Kitty corner.
It was on the corner of Bridge Street and Grand River Avenue.
Yeah.
Okay, moving down the hill a little ways, Portland's old homestead. In 1930, Edward L. Goodwin acquired the historic Newman House known as the Old Homestead, located on 912 East Grand River. And I didn't get a picture of the house itself, the homestead house, but it was a three-story, massive building that was at one time, I believe, a stagecoach stop. But these were associated with it. Mr. Goodwin subsequently converted the house into a hotel and established a campground on the property. The cabins were a popular destination for travelers on US16. The Portland Family Chiropractic Center now occupies the site of the former Newman homestead and cabins.
That's interesting.
Anybody ever stay in the cabins?
Nope, buy them a lot of times.
One of the cabins, at least one of them is, if you were to go into the chiropractic parking lot and you were to look behind the houses that are on this, just the one street over there, down James Street, that there's one or two of them that bought the cabins and moved them over to their backyards.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they're kind of like, they're like sheds or something, but that's what the cabins were.
That one looks a whole lot like that. The place right down by the dam. And it was when we moved here, 13 years ago
Yeah.
or
Oh,
so.
you mean the
Um,
house?
That's a two-story.
It looks
Yeah,
just
that
like
was
one
two-story.
of those.
Oh, yeah.
These are much smaller. These are
But-
cabins.
I think those are two-story.
Kept them up.
What?
By the dam?
No, this is just it's a little tiny place, and it looks like a young man bought it, because it was in ruins when we first moved here.
Okay.
And then he fixed it up, and then he built a couple outbuildings, but it looks exactly like, that's what it looked like when we
Probably
moved
could
here.
have moved one.
I wonder if one of them got moved out there.
Yeah, it could have been, because there were 8 or 10 that I remember.
Mike, before you move on,
Yeah.
the spot before that I learned about last year is in like the laundromat strip. And I'm assuming at the time that, it was open right to the road. But I was at the house that was on James Street that it was like some sort of,
Torpsmith.
yeah, an international business of farming.
The ginseng.
Yep.
Yeah, that was quite fascinating. I talked to the homeowner at the time. and They have a nice little carriage house there still, and the house is in great condition.
Right, and that, Torpsmith's, her grandfather built that house, and then they had a ginseng business, which is really weird, they had the whole backyard was where they planted and nurtured these ginseng plants and sold them a lot. Most of them went to China, is what I was understanding.
Yeah, that farm property probably went all the way to
The
the
Grand River,
highway, I'm
yep.
guessing, because the outline of the laundromat building is still, the pitch of the roof is still there.
Yep, well, that was very good. Yeah, we had a presentation which is also available on YouTube. You can find it where Mr. Torpsmith told the story of his family's Ginseng farm, so that's available. His wife's family, yeah. What's her name?
There's
Jerry.
Jerry. Yeah, of course, yeah. Okay, the bayou. The article reads, a bayou on the Looking Glass River has been transformed into a skating rink for Portland residents. The rink is under supervision of the Portland Recreation Board, and the city supplies lights and maintenance. A wood-burning hearth in a warming shed gives skaters a chance to don and remove their blades in comfort and thaws them out if they become chilled while skating. The area is within the city limits with steps leading down to it off Old US 16. So this would be the eastern entrance to the Emergency Services Building, is about where those steps were. And if you remember the warming shed, it was long and narrow, and the fireplace was on one end, so about 2 people at a time could warm their toes. But it was a welcome sight. No, it was, when it froze over, it was great skating. You could skate down the bayou and then into the woods, actually. Anybody else skate down there?
my wife skated down there a
I
lot.
skated down there.
Did you? Tim? Yeah, okay. All right, does anybody remember buying a car from Crosby's? It was located where CarQuest BMW Auto Supply is now. This was, I think, before I was ever in the car buying age. I don't remember this one. Anybody else? Do you? What they sell? What brand? What Pontiacs?
Yep.
Okay. It doesn't look too hot there in the old age. But I'm
Yeah,
sure
it
it
looks
was
like it was
a going concern.
They used to have what was it, that hot rod they built, Pontiac, what was it? Anyways,
GTO?
I don't remember what it was, but somebody took one of the cars and started it up and drove it right through
I
the
think it's a Trans Am.
Trans
window. I
Am?
won't mention who it was, but
Cool. Anybody you know?
I didn't know him personally.
Okay.
Is he still alive?
Mhm.
Is he still alive?
Couldn't tell you. He probably the way he drove, no.
Well, then you can tell us his name.
No, his family member's still
Oh,
around.
okay.
I
You
don't
gotta
know.
keep those skeletons in that closet,
Yeah,
huh?
I'll whisper it to you.
Okay.
Okay, moving along down the road, the bookstore. In 1936, Dr. Clifford Young and his wife, Mina Crooks Young, opened the Torchlight Book Exchange on Grand River Avenue in Portland, across from the mill. They bought and sold new and used first editions in the little brick carriage house and garage owned by Lorenzo Weber, located at the foot of Weber Hill. And it looks very much just like that today, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does.
So that's 1936. Yep, weathering well.
We featured them at Spring Into the Past last year.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That was a neat story.
Yeah. He has, there is a lot of story connected with Dr. Clifford Young. He became a very famous personality in Michigan, and I didn't include all of that, but yeah.
Was he the one that started the blood bank?
Yes, he started the blood bank of Michigan.
Wow.
Maybe nationally, I'm not sure.
I think the idea spread.
Okay, Bob Johnson was a smart businessman. Thousands of cars and potential buyers passed by his classy store every week. These photos were provided by Mr. Johnson's daughter, Marilyn. So, yeah, he could get a lot of vehicles in there, and it was really nice. This is the east end of Valley City Milling Company right now. It's all bricked up and they use it for storage. All right, there's the Valley City Milling Company. The historical marker is located in Grand Rapids. It reads in part, quote, in 1884, the Valley City Milling Company was founded in Grand Rapids. The company, which at first milled flour, expanded to include horse feed in 1893. It incorporated in 1894, and it remained in Grand Rapids until 1923, when fire destroyed its facilities. In 1924, the company moved to Portland.
That's another one we feature.
Yep, we featured that one too. Yeah.
We're looking at the hill on the other side of the street, and you can, because you can barely see that stairway that goes up.
That's
Not-
right.
Right there.
And then it's, obviously it stops, the rest of it's gone. But look there was no trees on that hill at all. One little tree.
You can't even see that.
And now you can't even, you can't even see the house at the top anymore for the jungle of trees.
Yeah, good eye, that's exactly right.
But you can just barely see that little bit of staircase that's left, and then the rest that goes up the hill, that's completely gone, I think.
I never noticed that, and I think that was to help workers get from up on James Street and up there down to the
Down to Main Street.
Yes,
So
it was.
so that was what was called Weber Hill, huh? Weber's Hill.
apparently it was,
Uh-huh.
yeah, looks like it.
Pretty cool.
One of the modern trees lost a limb and impaled somebody driving by.
What?
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, tell the story.
I didn't hear that.
You know the story, Beth?
You might know better than me. Tell it.
Well, there was a mother and.
You want to come over and get on the mic?
Not really.
What happened?
I used to be on the fire department. I can't remember what year it was, but the mother was taking her son home from school and they were driving by. Just a calm day and one of them small trees fell down onto Grand River and impaled her son. So they had to cut the seat out of the van, trim the tree up because it come right through the front windshield, and hauled him to the hospital and back the ambulance in the van seat with the tree still impaled. The kid survived. Survived just all his vitals. Just had a big tree sticking out.
Wow.
What year was that, you know?
I don't know what that,
Be interesting to look that
Late
up.
I'm gonna say
90s.
late 90s,
Somewhere
mid
around there.
80s, right around there.
And the reason this story is a little more personal to us is because one day after work, Margie was, I don't remember exactly what, you were putting a coat on or something, and she had a wooden toothpick.
I was working in Ann Arbor that day, and I had gone to a restaurant with some people, and I don't know, I didn't hardly use toothpicks, but they had interesting big ones at the counter, and I thought, oh, that's kind of a cool toothpick, and I stuck it in my coat pocket. It was one of these great big ones. And I got back to the parking lot to get rid of the state car, and Michael was supposed to be picking me up there. And when I got out, the toothpick rammed into my leg, in front of my leg.
A couple inches.
Yeah, a couple inches. And I went, oh no. And so we went to emergency, and it happened to be that the doctor that was taking care of me was the one who had taken care of that the kid with the branch. And he said, okay, but you're going to have some of the same treatment. You're going to have to come back here for several days, and because of wood being so, having all the stuff in it. And he's like, don't toothpick it.
Is that the Divine Hotel in the back of that too?
Yes, it is, way at the end of the street. Right. All right, moving down the road a little bit. Okay, these are the silos. They were part of Portland for 89 years. The silos were constructed on East Grand River for the Valley City Milling Company in 1926 by the Stevens Engineering Construction Company of St. Louis. And they were demolished in July of 2015. Some of you might remember when they took those down.
Now that we remember. We were here for that.
You remember
The red tomato and the silos.
You remember the plaque that was on the front of that? The big brass one?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's in his office. He took it to his office. It's supposed to be hanging in there.
Oh, okay, wonderful, yeah.
We were supposed to get it, but he wanted it in his office, I guess.
Well, I guess so.
I have another emergency services story about the silos.
Yeah.
There was a
Everyone can hear you.
There was a kid in my class that, kids would climb up the ladder onto that landing and the platform, and they'd jump off into the river.
Oh my God.
Because, the dam was there at some point in time, so it was rather deep in that one section. And the ladder kind of went above the little platform, and on one of the attempts, caught the foot of this kid, and he took a face first fall right into the concrete and broke both of his arms. And we were both down there for it. And I remember, you know, it's basically sticking out quite far the wrong way. So he made a full recovery, but yeah.
Wow.
Swan dive, yikes.
Yeah.
Kids.
That's an interesting story.
Yeah.
Okay, the city of Portland celebrated its sesquicentennial in 2019. US16 was honored for its major role in the town's growth and development. So you might remember this sign, it was at the end of Divine Highway.
It's in City Hall now, or it was.
Oh, yeah, okay, is it?
It's still upstairs at City Hall.
Upstairs at City Hall, sure. All right. We are looking east from Divine Hotel down DeWitt Street, at the time it was called, and we're looking west from James Street, from the James Street Hill. In the older photo, let's get a magnifier. This building here was a laundry back then, and I think that became the home restaurant at some point.
What street was that? DeWitt Street by Divine?
That's the mill back there.
DeWitt is the old name of Grand River.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It used to be
That I know
DeWitt Street. Right here is James Street coming into it,
Okay.
at the bottom of that hill. And here's that same building, but it's the home restaurant at this point, or that one there. I guess it's that one there. Yep. Okay, this photo is from the Grand River Avenue book that I showed you. The text says, "The workers painstakingly lay paving bricks on the Grand River Avenue and most likely all of the downtown streets in Portland." They indicate this was around 1910. I think we've got a nice picture right by the bank on Kent Street of these guys. I think they were local guys that got hired to do this work. One brick at a time.
I was just gonna mention too, like where it was showing of the restaurant and everything, there were several other little places in there, and many of you might remember, is it Dick Schraubin? Is that what I'm thinking of? Is that what his name was? He was like the last of the Schraubin brothers. He lived up on Lincoln, and he was telling us that when he was a kid, that he worked down at the one restaurant that was like a burger place, and there was so much traffic on Grand River, and it was always, everybody would be stopping, you know, they didn't have to stop because of the traffic and everything, and that what the restaurant did was they were selling hamburgers out the front door. And so he would be running out there, they were able to somehow, they'd have these hamburgers ready, and he would be running out there and just, you know, as fast as when he could, running out to do these hamburgers, because that's how busy US16 was as far as the traffic coming through Portland.
Right, and this
Talk about entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like all this traffic is stopped in front of my restaurant. Hey, let's make some burgers up and go up
You
there
get
and
arrested
see
for it
it.
nowadays.
And sell them on the street, you
What a
know?
great idea. This gives you an idea too of the traffic. This was the 8,000th World War II landing barge that was built by Chris Craft. And many, many passed through Portland nearly every day during World War II.
Wow.
Right here, pictured are the owner, Mrs. Ivan Wilcox at the time, and Sam Berman, who owned the Standard Oil station at the corner of Maple Street. So these guys went by almost every day.
On their way to Detroit?
Well, I think the rest of it said on their way to be completed, wherever that was.
Chris Craft
Chris
was down
Craft's
there.
Chris
Holland.
Craft was
Detroit.
on the east side where, yeah.
That was in Holland.
Algonac and Holland.
Looks like he's traveling west, doesn't it?
Oh, so yes, would be going to Holland from,
Maybe Holland.
from,
Probably heading to Holland.
mhm.
Yeah. Okay, in the Facebook post, we had a comment from Gregory Ireland who said, "I remember it as a Bay gas station. It was run by Art Creighton. My dad, James Ireland, worked there with Jack Hyland. Other names I remember are Tom Bailey and Gordy Hoppus. And then he asks, does anybody remember the tool auction at the garage?
This is one that was on Maple Street?
Yeah, Maple at
And
James.
Grand River?
Yep.
So that's the parking lot now?
That's the parking lot now, yep. And this brick
house
building
is
in the
still there,
back
the
on
one
the
behind
left is the house that's still there.
It's her house.
Yeah.
Isn't that your house?
That's right, you are.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
your, look at, we can see your house from here.
Okay, everybody knows the Divine Hotel. It's pretty famous in Portland. Monroe Divine purchased the Welch House in 1900. It was listed in the 1904 directory as the Hotel Divine, Chester Divine and Son, proprietors. The Historical Society has a wonderful video interview of now deceased Historical Society member Dick McQueen, who lived there in the hotel as a teenager. And that's a fascinating story of itself. Dick was asked to leave the house as a young boy. He lived west or east of town, and he said he made his way towards evening and ended up at the Divine Hotel. And Chester Divine asked him what he was doing there, and he told him, and Chet said, you go up on the 3rd floor, you've got a room there as long as you want, as long as you're working in high school and you graduate.
It's an interesting story he told.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, really a good story.
Is that the kid that ended up in Alaska?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. He was working at the gas station across the street, and some guy stopped and said, you're a hard worker, do you want a job? And he said, sure. And he said, I have heavy equipment in Alaska. So he made the move.
Interesting story about Divine Hotel. My uncle immigrated to Canada and then in the United States back in, a long time ago, let's put it that way, but he was a professional painter. That's what his trade was. And he was hired to paint the interiors in some of these rooms here. But I don't know what year it was, none of the family remembers, but he lived in Lansing and they hired him to paint this inside.
Yeah. There were a lot of rooms, 3 stories.
A lot of rooms. I don't think he painted them all, but.
Well, Jenny Weber was a waitress at the restaurant at the hotel and told about how fancy it was, elegant.
It was elegant and known throughout Michigan as one of the premier hotels
It was
to
a
stop at.
destination.
There's always rumors that you hear about the gangsters that used to stop there as well, and then they would go out and hang out at Electric Park when the bands were playing out there.
Yeah.
You can still find the video you guys have featuring them at the cemetery walk last year.
Yeah, we did one before that too, so it was fun, like, because there's so much history with the Divine Hotel. And different times over the years, we've run into people who talked about, they'd be here with their grandchildren or something, and they'd say, yeah, when we were young, there was a hotel here, and we would be heading from Grand Rapids or somewhere, and we would stop at the Divine Hotel, either going or coming, and we would get ice cream or food on our way down to Detroit Tigers ball game. But the Divine Hotel was always the place to stop. So many stories that people had about it, and it's so sad that we couldn't keep it.
Yeah.
Yes, Monroe Divine was 52 years old and he passed in 1908. His son Chester, who assumed ownership, was 19 years old and a recent graduate of Portland High School. The Hotel Divine was demolished in 1975. Its entire footprint is now part of the parking lot of the C-store. Hard to believe that a building that looks like that could be as small as that parking lot and a little bit of where the C-store was. But I guess that's what they did. Yeah.
What's that little building on the telephone pole?
The little building on the phone pole, interesting. I don't know. What is that?
It's pretty high up, too.
Yeah.
Somebody
I
asked
was
that
wondering what the
question once
tarping
before.
was over the canopy and whatever's
They might have been remodeling or something.
tarped over or something like that.
But notice all of the awnings on every window.
Yeah.
It was granted. Yep.
Like,
How bad was the building before it got turned down?
I guess pretty bad. There wasn't any effort at all to do anything to save it at that point. So.
They say that the bar is at the Eagle Inn now. Anybody know that to be true?
Yeah, I've heard that
I've heard
also,
that.
Annie. The bar in the Eagle Inn, the back bar, the beautiful wood bar is the one that was in the bar room at the hotel.
Wasn't the glass cases from West Side? They were originally from the hotel?
Very, very possibly, yes.
That's what they advertised them as
Yeah.
when they were
Yeah,
getting rid of
they
them.
would have been the cigar cases by the front desk. The bus used to stop there right outside the side door, and people would come in and get a quick shoe shine. They had 3 shoe shine chairs, or no, they had 3 barber chairs. I can't remember, one or the other. And a shoe shine chair, and they sold all the things that a traveler would need in a hurry.
That almost looks like that picture was taken from the back of the building, and the front of the building is up where the fancy windows are. Is that true?
Well, it's a corner of obviously Grand River and Kent Street.
Yeah, but this looks like it's like Kent Street's up there.
So that looks like you think that's Market Street? The front, that we're looking at Market Street
No,
there?
that would be
Maple.
Maple.
Maple,
but
not, I always want to call it Market.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think that's,
Because the door on the side there is the door where the bus would stop.
Maybe
So
that's
I
why.
don't, we'll have to find out what
I
that
think you're
little
right.
thing on the pole is. That's interesting.
I think that had something to do with the telephone equipment. Some
Okay,
kind of a, like
control
a
box.
control box or
They had
transformer or
a
something.
little midget in there, and he was looking at the stoplight.
A little tiny switchboard operator.
It was demolished in 1975. We wonder whatever happened to the Divine Hotel brass plaque. Right on the main door there, just below that, where you see that little house, they had a huge brass plaque that said Divine Hotel. It would be interesting to know where that ended up.
Probably in a smelt pot.
Probably.
Somebody's got it.
Somebody's got it. Come on. Okay.
Oh, we know what that is.
Portland Cafe. This popular dining spot has been Portland favorite for decades and has had several names and owners. And the Little Peak building next door has been there for a long time. But what I really enjoy about it is this picture. There's the little building, the Peak building on the right, and then what you see now that's been demolished for the little plaza next to Fabiano's. This was a going concern here, a 2-pump gas station and tires and a guy with a straw hat.
Vulcanizing.
That restaurant was Queenie's.
Yeah.
Okay, we got Queenie, Albert Queenie, and Guidi, Margaret, and here's an interesting comment from a Portland, Michigan history page contributor, Lori Rose. Lori said, "My grandpa used to drive Greyhound bus between Grand Rapids and Detroit. He dropped in there every time he could for food and to woo the waitress that would become his wife." Originally, the site of a famous Portland photographer, George Van Horn, this location has been also many different things. So we got Cafe, Barney's, Ernie's, Root Cellar, Duke's, Canoe Landing, and the River House, which has recently been sold, but it will keep the name River House.
Was there never any bus affiliation with that building?
Bus?
Yeah, did the bus only stop at the Hotel Divine? I thought, I had heard stories
I
about
don't
that
know.
being bus affiliated.
It might have.
Something like that.
Yeah, because there were several bus lines, so it could
Well,
have.
especially after the Divine Hotel came down.
Well, yeah, that would have been an inconvenience. Yeah. Very likely. Okay, this nearby bridge is one of the very few places in Michigan where the Grand River Avenue actually crosses over the Grand River. The other one that came to my mind was in Old Town Lansing, and there may be 1 or 2 other places, but I'm not aware of it. Maybe Grand Rapids. Well, there isn't any Grand River Avenue in Grand Rapids. It's Cascade at that point.
There's a Grand River in Grand Rapids.
There is a Grand River there. That's right. Okay, St. Patrick's, accompanying the article, it said the new building will occupy the most sightly place on the crest of West Side Hill. opposite Alton Park. And you see the old, what was the building on the left? That was
The rectory.
The rectory?
I think so.
Uh-huh.
No, wait a minute.
Maybe the convent,
Or was it the school?
The nuns lived there.
The nuns.
convent,
Nuns are behind it.
It's-
The rectory is behind it, isn't it?
Yeah, it says
yeah,
St.
but the
Patrick's
convent
Church
for the
and
nuns was
school.
probably the bigger.
Was that before the brown one that they built?
I don't know, I just know
I
the
remember
convents
the
were
brown
typically
one.
bigger. I'm not from Portland, so. But any Catholic church that had nuns typically had a convent that was
Yeah.
Convent
4 to
was
5 times the size of the rectory.
Yeah.
I think that was
Especially
on-
if they had a school.
That was on the street behind this one.
Yeah, there was,
All right, moving out of town.
Mike, can I interrupt you?
Yeah,
So
sure.
we go back down the hill, the little building that's by the ball field used to be what, the police station?
Yes, it did. Yeah. Originally, it was the police station with a little jail down below. You can still see remnants of that. It's the, I don't know what they call it. They stored the softball
Right
equipment
next
in
to
there
the church.
now.
Oh, I didn't know there was a basement.
See the building?
Yeah, yeah.
See the house right next
And
to
we've
the
got a great
people?
photo of
Yeah,
Yeah,
on
on the
the,
left.
that's.
one of the officers
yeah.
running out the
That's-
front
So
door,
you
putting
think
his
that
coat
was
on.
the
Jay
Makes
Clark may be
sense.
headed for
I didn't
some
see
sort of
this
an
thing here. I couldn't
emergency.
figure out whether that's the rectory.
And that was also the Parks Department before they remodeled the building that eventually became City Hall.
Yeah, I remember visiting there.
Yeah,
Sure,
looks like
at
they
that
must
Yeah,
time.
there you.
Yeah.
Yeah, she liked it there. She didn't want to move. That's what I heard. Okay, the roadside park. Alan Williams, Ionia County highway engineer, had a major impact on both US 16 and the overall state highway system, well beyond his day-to-day job, helping to design and maintain the roads in Ionia County. In 1929, he introduced the first publicly accessible roadside picnic table on US 16, and a historical marker along Grand River Avenue south of Saranac denotes this site to this day. Because of this, MDOT installed many hundreds more of these tables in roadside parks and rest areas across the state, and continues maintaining many of these areas today. I don't know if you remember, but road trip used to be you pack the kids in the station wagon with a couple of picnic baskets and headed out, and eventually you'd end up at one of these little roadside tables, and we thought we were having fun. We had a good time, usually by a stream or something. So, currently, US 16 highway is an east-west United States numbered highway between Rapid City, South Dakota, and Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. The highway's eastern terminus is in Rapid City. The western terminus is the east entrance to Yellowstone National Park. US 16 used to extend eastward all the way to Michigan, but it has been truncated in favor of I-90 and I-96. Today, US 16, now fondly known as Sweet 16, is touted as the best and safest way over the Bighorn Mountains due to a less steep grade and gradual curves. Anybody been on 16 as it is today?
Yeah.
I guess that's quite a road trip as well, kind of like driving old 66.
Yeah.
So, thank you for your trip with us. As you travel Grand River, please remember the heritage of US 16 and the richness that it represents. And we hope you'll enjoy it more fully in your next road trip. Thank you for your interest, and we have a free US 16 car window sticker for you if you want one. You don't need that old M22 sticker anymore. You can pull that off your car. And we hope that you'll wear your new US 16 sticker proudly. So thank you very much for attending this evening.